This is Takopi. He's a happy alien from Happy Planet. Sounds amazing. Sounds lovely. And this is the show that will destroy you emotionally. Takopi's original sin is a masterpiece of bait and switch storytelling. It promises a kid's show and delivers a soul-crushing tragedy. So today, we're not just going to be reviewing it, I'm going to help you prepare for it. To begin, I want to talk about the art style. And more than anything else, I think the art style is the show's biggest trap. The art style is one of the show's greatest weapons. Takopi himself looks like he's from a children's cartoon. He's cute, he's round, and emotionally, he is disarming. He's just this cute, pink, round, kind of ambiguous looking creature. Yeah, he has tentacles like an octopus, but outside of that, you don't really know what the fuck that guy is. But the world that Takopi resides in, at least for the runtime of the show, is in direct, stark contrast of Takopi himself. The world that Takopi resides in is bleak. It's washed out, and more than anything else, it feels oppressive. This contrast is so unpleasant. I don't know how the showrunners and the producers and like the art and the artists, I don't know how they got it, but they managed to convey this level of unpleasantness that is not just great, but it's also very real. It's not like oh, it's like a show and I feel kind of unpleasant from it because there's like weird aliens and shit. No, I feel unpleasant and I feel like really off about it because it's weirdly real, right? And it's this unpleasantness, it's this inability to be okay with watching it that makes you feel like something, of course, is just deeply wrong, even when nothing is happening. There are times in the show where Takopi and his cohort, they're just kind of doing their own thing. And in the context of everything, you know, things can be really fucked up in terms of like what they're doing. But as they're just doing sort of daily activities, not necessarily anything nefarious or evil, something already just feels incredibly off. And I feel like the art style plays a huge role in this because it's the first thing that sort of speaks to you. You have this cute, weird, round, pink alien that's just sitting there. Not really sitting there, but he's like going around doing stuff. And then you have the human characters who, in contrast, are more neutral in tone. They're not as vibrant as, you know, Takopi and his color. They talk, you know, obviously human-like. Normally, Takopi has a alien vernacular, I suppose, that is a little bit more very unhuman, obviously. But again, it's through this contrast that allows the show to convey, even in the more mundane things, it allows the show to convey this very unpleasant feeling. And it's something that lasts throughout the entire show. They did a really good job in portraying and conveying these emotions to the viewer. Even when the viewer doesn't want to feel that way, yeah, like, good luck, dude. You're gonna be fucking feeling that way for the entirety of the 6 episodes that the show runs for. It's not a lot, but I'll tell you what, the longest 6 episodes I've ever fucking watched in my life, dude. The sound design is another thing that also adds to the unpleasantness of the show. It's minimalist, but it's minimalist in the best way possible. The show understands that silence can, and more often than not, be heavier and more terrifying than any sort of like scary violin music that can play throughout a horror film. When the things that you're watching on screen are already unpleasant, you don't have to add scary music. Force the viewer to sit through some of the most unpleasant scenes I've ever seen in an anime ever, and that's scary enough, you know? Just fucking watch it. It's, again, like, I can't stop talking about how sort of like, how much of a good job the show does in terms of eliciting these really uncomfortable and terrible feelings in the viewer, at least for me, right? The combination, that one hit, that 1-2 punch combo of the art style and then the sound design, it's like, okay, I'm kind of fucked. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. It's very difficult to watch. In other sections of the show, the music can also be just like the visuals and the art style. It adds contrast to the scene. Just as an example, there can be something happening on screen that, in the context of what's been going on in the show, is really fucked up. One of the characters dies. Not because of any natural sort of mishap, but rather because Takopi fucking takes his like alien camera and socks one of the fucking characters in the head and kills her, murders a child, and they just start playing like happy music and shit. You know, and it's that contrast again. The show does a really good job of conveying this unsettling and unpleasant contrast that I can't stop talking about. But again, this sort of plays into the whole idea of the musical dissonance that the show does have and does portray in a way that's great, frankly, and in a way that constantly elicits very uncomfortable emotions. At the heart of Takopi's original sin, this is a story about 3 deeply broken children. You have Shizuka, who is the victim who's gone numb to the world. You have Marina. She is the bully who clearly acts out her own trauma that she experiences at home, and she brings that into her daily life and she acts it out. And then you have Azuma, who is the boy who sees everything but is too afraid to do anything. For all intents and purposes, he is your quintessential bystander. Focusing on these 3 characters, the show will explore themes of parental neglect, the cycle of abuse, and the terrifying helplessness of childhood. It asks what happens when children are left to deal with adult-sized problems entirely on their own. The concept of a child is that they are unfiltered, unadulterated containers of innocence and energy. They haven't necessarily been opened up yet to the brutal, or what can be brutal, nature of the world. In this case, when you see these children going through brutal and just downright nefarious trauma, it's a very uncomfortable watch, to put it lightly, because you understand, like, these are children. Like, these are beings who haven't yet been able to handle these types of things on their own, let alone, like, the other things in the world that you have to try and figure out and handle, like taxes, finances, dude. While it does explore these themes in a way that's very uncomfortable, there are spots of sunlight. Obviously, towards the end, there are many spots of sunlight. Okay, maybe not many, but the spots of sunlight that do exist, they're very bright, and it's good. It was episode 4 for me, and then episode 6 in particular. In episode 4, there was a brief moment that Azuma had with his brother, and it was the build-up essentially was that Azuma never really talked to any of his family members about the stuff that he was going through, because 1, his dad was never really home, and then 2, his mother was sort of neglecting a lot of Azuma's different feelings because she was dealing with her own stuff. Not that that's a reasonable excuse to completely neglect a child's emotions and experiences, but that is the reason why Azuma's mother was the way she was. And then Azuma's brother was enjoying his life, in contrast to Azuma, who was trying to live up to his mother's expectations, but in reality can't, having a very difficult time doing that. But towards the end of episode 4, there was a very, very powerful moment in there between Azuma and his brother. Azuma was at his breaking point and essentially had a fight with his brother. But his brother didn't necessarily retaliate. He sat there and he listened. It was an emotional eruption of everything that he had been going through, everything that his brother did not know that he was going through. In this very vulnerable moment for Azuma, his brother just listened. He heard Azuma speak in a way that he had never heard him speak before. In response to all of the anger and all of the intense emotions that Azuma let out, his brother just said, why didn't you tell me sooner? I'm here to support you, and I'm here to support you because you're my brother. And that, to me, was such a hard-hitting episode because, one, I have a brother. Two, my brother is very similar in that sense. That unconditional love is just, to me, when you place it into the context of how bleak the world of Takopi's original sin is, that scene sort of broke me a little bit, just because it was like, I understand that feeling between a brother. I understand that relationship and dynamic between brothers. I understand it on a very real level too. And to have that as a payoff for Azuma, I couldn't be more fucking happy for the guy, dude. I was crying. Oh my God. I was bawling my eyes out in that moment because of how real the whole thing was. To go through certain things and then to not realize that you've had someone in your corner this whole time and you could have just said some shit. But you chose not to because you were afraid that you were going to disrupt the other person's life. But at the end of the day, the other person will unconditionally support you because that is what they feel is right. And for that to be the payoff, dude, there are not many anime shows, let alone shows in general, that do a good job of leading to a payoff. This show does multiple different kinds of payoffs in a way that's just so well done. Shizuka also had an emotional eruption, but not towards a family member because she didn't have that luxury. It was towards Takopi. Takopi is also this container of innocence and unconditional support and love. And Shizuka, when she has her emotional eruption in the last episode, Takopi does a very similar thing to Azuma's brother. He just listens. Or Takopi just listens. They just listen. Because how do you begin to understand someone whose parents were never really there for you in the first place? How do you begin to understand someone who every waking day of their life struggles emotionally, socially, physiologically, everythingly? How do you begin to understand that, one, as a human, let alone as a fucking alien from another planet? Takopi, when he listens and he's done listening, he apologizes because he realizes that he should have just listened from the beginning. But when this emotional eruption happens after Shizuka being numb for so long, again, it's one of those payoffs that is just so well done. Because throughout the entirety of the show, you can tell how detached, how dejected Shizuka is from the world around her. When her bully, Marina, dies, he doesn't give a shit. As soon as she dies, she begins to move on immediately. She thanks Takopi for killing the child. Which is a crazy thing to say, by the way. She thanks Takopi for killing Marina. And then she moves on to try, to try and find her dog. She's numb as hell. Just seeing her let out all that pain and seeing Takopi again respond with just pure, unconditional, unfettered love, despite everything, strikes an incredibly deep chord. This is the core of the show. It's incredibly heartbreaking. Azuma, again, he had the luxury of having a family member being there for him. In the case of Shizuka, it's just Takopi, an alien. More than anything else, this is emotional trauma and baggage that will not disappear after a singular emotional eruption. There is a psychological aspect to this, right? There's something called maladaptive behaviors. When you're exposed to traumatic experiences for so long, you adapt in a way that isn't good for you or the people around you, but you adapt to it that way because it's the easiest way for you to adapt. Path of least resistance, if you will. And when Shizuka lets loose all of this all of her emotions towards Takopi, it doesn't go away. The scenes that follow after are of Shizuka and Takopi just traveling around the general vicinity and trying to live day by day because she can't go back home. Seemingly, Shizuka just cries for days on end. And Takopi's just there as this form of unconditional support and love. She just did not seem to be getting any better, because that's like, it's a completely different beast entirely. That's kind of the core of the show, is just that like, sometimes it's very difficult to understand an individual. And even when you think you begin to understand them, there's a whole other beast waiting for you once you go down a little further to try and understand the person. And understand that while you may not be able to fix them, you can be there for them. So, final verdict for the show. Who should watch this? This is a very triggering show. So, if you're looking for something to escape from reality, not this show. Don't watch this. If you've already had enough of what's around you, it's hard to recommend the show just because of how triggering it can be. This could be a very good form of catharsis for you, by the way. This could be a very good form of media for you, as a way for you to like sort of reconcile all of the feelings that you've had. Is that going to be the case for everyone? Most likely not, but it's not a casual watch. It's gonna fucking wreck you, dude. It wrecked me, dude. 6 episodes. Wrecked. Absolute emotional mess, dude. Just watch out. But if you do appreciate stories that are challenging, that do force the viewer into a state of like, you gotta watch this shit even though it's uncomfortable. You know, if you like stories that are profound, that are unflinchingly honest, I suppose in that sense too, stories that focus on the darker side of humanity, then this is definitely something to watch. If you want something that sticks with you for days, if you want something that makes you think about certain concepts for weeks, months on end, Takopi's Original Sin is waiting for you, dude. This is all to say that Takopi's Original Sin, it's a haunting, beautiful, but ultimately devastating piece of art. It's a 10 out of 10. The payoffs, the expositions, the climaxes of the show, it's all really well done. All in 6 episodes. The quality per episode is insanely high. And yes, although it's a 10 out of 10, it is a very hard-earned good watch, like 10 out of 10. Like, you will have to work your way through your emotions to watch this show, unless you're someone who can easily detach from their emotions and just be like, okay, this is just a show. But yeah, that's how I feel about the show. Let me know down in the comments if you're planning to watch it, or if you've seen it already. And if you have, let me know what you thought about the show. If you guys like this kind of video, like the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.